Have you ever wondered why some women over 60 seem to instantly capture everyone's attention, while others, despite having great style, often feel invisible? Today, we're going to reveal a simple yet incredibly effective secret that helps women over 60 not only stand out, but also feel more confident than ever. And that secret is the power of color. Colors have a profound impact on confidence and social interactions, especially for women over 60. As we age, our bodies naturally undergo many changes, including shifts in skin tone and facial features. These changes can sometimes affect how we feel about ourselves, but the right colors can help highlight our natural beauty and boost our confidence. When we choose the right colors, they can brighten our complexion, add freshness to our faces, and enhance features that may have been overlooked. Colors become a powerful tool in making us feel vibrant and confident. It's not just about personal preference. Choosing the right colors can significantly shift how we perceive ourselves and how others perceive us. According to a study from Harvard, nearly 85% of first impressions are formed based on the colors we wear. This shows just how much color influences how we're perceived. Another study from the National Institute on Aging revealed that women over 60 who wear the right colors experience up to a 42% increase in positive social interactions throughout the day. This means that not only does the right color help you feel more confident, but it also enhances your social interactions and opens up opportunities to meet new people. So color isn't just about looking good, it's about connecting with the world around us. The confidence that comes from wearing colors that suit us makes us stand out and draws attention in a way that fosters new opportunities and meaningful connections. 2. Navy blue is an excellent choice for women over 60, offering a balance of sophistication and trustworthiness without being as harsh as black. This color adds an elegant, mature touch while highlighting natural beauty, making it perfect for both formal occasions and professional settings. It's a versatile color that can also be seamlessly worn in social gatherings, offering a refined, polished appearance. Wearing navy blue allows you to project confidence and command respect. Whether it's a blazer or a dress, this color instantly elevates your look. It makes you appear youthful yet graceful, providing a sense of authority while still maintaining approachability. Navy blue not only enhances your appearance, but also communicates a strong sense of self-assuredness. If you feel overlooked during important events, a navy blazer or outfit can make all the difference. Sometimes, a small change in your wardrobe can give you the confidence boost you need and help you stand out. Color is not just about aesthetics, it's a tool that shapes how others perceive you and how you feel in any situation. 3. Soft peach is a fantastic choice for women over 60, bringing a refreshing warmth and radiance. This color brightens the complexion and helps conceal small imperfections, giving a youthful and glowing appearance. Unlike bold, overpowering colors, soft peach provides a gentle, natural feel, creating a refined and effortless look. Soft peach also has the ability to reflect light, giving your skin a smooth, healthy glow. It's the perfect color for casual outings, social events, or a day out with friends. A soft peach sweater, for example, can make you stand out without being overly flashy. This color not only makes you look younger, but also brings a sense of ease and elegance to your overall look. What makes soft peach particularly appealing is that it helps boost confidence and comfort in social interactions. When you wear colors like this, you'll notice how others perceive you differently. Color isn't just about appearance. It's a powerful tool to help you feel more self-assured and vibrant in any situation. 4. Royal purple is an excellent choice for mature women, exuding luxury and elegance. This color represents sophistication, power, and wisdom, making it perfect for women who are confident and aware of their worth. Royal purple is not overwhelming, but stands out just enough to make a strong impression, helping you shine in any setting. What makes royal purple especially appealing for women over 60 is that it enhances both elegance and strength. It signals confidence and an ability to stand out without being over the top. The beauty of royal purple lies in its versatility. It can be paired with various other colors to create a striking yet refined look. Choosing royal purple isn't just about looking good, it's about asserting your presence. This color gives you the confidence to own any room you walk into, reflecting both grace and authority. When you wear royal purple, you'll notice how people perceive you differently, boosting your self-assurance in any situation. 5. Emerald green is an excellent choice for adding a refreshing, youthful touch to your wardrobe. This color not only brightens your complexion but also enhances your natural beauty, making you look radiant and full of life. It gives off a vibrant, positive energy, making it the perfect color to wear when you want to feel energized and confident. Emerald green highlights your natural features without being overpowering. It strikes a perfect balance between bold and subtle, offering a refined and sophisticated look that's versatile enough for both casual and formal occasions. Whether for everyday wear or a social gathering, this color helps you look youthful and full of vitality. Wearing emerald green doesn't just change your appearance, it boosts your confidence. It brings a sense of freshness and vitality, making you feel more energetic and ready to take on the day. When you choose this color, you'll notice how it enhances your overall look and how others respond to your vibrant, confident presence. 6. Classic red is a bold and striking color that exudes confidence, power, and an undeniable ability to capture attention. It's the color of energy, passion, and vitality, making anyone who wears it appear strong and alluring. Red is timeless and especially ideal for women who want to showcase their confidence and strong personality. Not only does classic red highlight your appearance, but it also boosts your self-assurance. When you wear a red dress, you immediately stand out in any crowd, feeling more confident and empowered. Red makes a statement without you having to say a word, drawing attention effortlessly. Wearing red is about more than just looking good, it's about owning the moment. It communicates power and confidence, making you feel in control of any situation. Choosing red isn't just about standing out, it's about embracing your strength and vitality, and radiating that energy wherever you go. 7. Rich burgundy is the perfect choice for mature women, offering sophistication and elegance without being overly flashy. This color conveys refinement and maturity, making it easy to pair with a variety of outfits for a polished, confident look. Burgundy is not only ideal for special occasions, but also versatile enough for everyday events, providing both comfort and class. Burgundy enhances the complexion and adds depth to your appearance without drawing too much attention. It's the perfect choice for those who want to showcase their confidence and elegance without being too bold. This color allows you to embrace your natural beauty while exuding a sense of luxury and grace. Wearing burgundy doesn't just enhance your look, it boosts your confidence. It gives off a sense of respect and recognition from others, allowing you to feel more assured in any situation. Burgundy is a timeless color that helps you shine with understated elegance, while also emphasizing your unique style and personality. 8. Sunny yellow brings a vibrant burst of energy and joy, making you stand out in any crowd effortlessly. It's the color of optimism and vitality, brightening up both your appearance and the environment around you. This color is perfect for those who want to showcase their confidence and cheerful personality, especially in social or casual settings. Not only does sunny yellow highlight your look, but it also creates a sense of warmth and positivity. It draws attention, making you appear radiant and full of life. Wearing this color not only boosts your confidence, but also helps you feel energized and ready to take on the day with a bright, upbeat attitude. Yellow is the perfect color for expressing your vibrant spirit. It makes you feel fresh, lively, and capable of drawing positive energy wherever you go. It's a color that blends brightness with confidence, ensuring that you shine in every situation. 9. Pure ivory is the perfect choice for anyone seeking elegance and refinement. This color represents subtle sophistication, offering a gentle yet polished look without being overdone. Ivory enhances your appearance naturally, exuding an air of grace and making it ideal for formal occasions where you want to make a lasting impression. Ivory complements the skin beautifully, adding a soft warmth while maintaining an understated elegance. It's a color that speaks volumes without shouting, creating a sophisticated, dignified look. Whether it's a formal event or a more casual gathering, ivory helps you stand out with effortless charm. Wearing ivory makes you feel poised, elegant, and confident. It not only elevates your look, but also reflects your personal style and grace. Ivory is the perfect color for those moments when you want to feel refined and make an impression without trying too hard. 10. Choosing the right colors for different occasions and settings is a great way to create an impression and showcase your personal style. For example, a navy blue blazer is an ideal choice for business meetings. The color navy exudes trustworthiness and professionalism, offering a polished look without being as rigid as black. It helps you stand out subtly while maintaining an air of sophistication. Similarly, when attending an evening party or formal event, a classic red dress is a perfect option. Red symbolizes confidence and boldness, making you the center of attention without losing elegance and charm. It's a color that allows you to stand out in a crowd and leave a lasting impression with your strong, confident presence. Choosing outfits in colors that fit the occasion not only boosts your confidence, but also allows you to align perfectly with the environment. When you select the right color, you enhance your appearance while demonstrating a refined sense of style for each event. By applying these colors in everyday life, you can easily create a look that is both elegant and dynamic. The key is to know how to mix and match colors that make you feel confident and comfortable in any situation. Choosing the right color doesn't just make you look better. It boosts your confidence, improves social interactions, and helps you shine no matter your age. Try experimenting with different colors in your wardrobe and feel the transformation. Remember, confidence is the most beautiful thing you can wear at any age. Share your color stories in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay updated with more fashion tips that can truly make a difference.